All right, so let's go to part 2 of the value of an investment advisor. We're going to talk about investment strategies today. So let's do a little bit of recap. We're talking about the 3 pillars. The first one in the last video that we talked about, pillar 1, was income planning. This is super important to start here because it's really the beginning of your value. However, if that income plan isn't backed up with an awesome, robust investment strategy that takes that income plan and brings it to life, you're nowhere. All right. Then once you have these two, the next thing is you're going to need awesome customer or client experience. Experience is the new thing. So in years past, it was all about customer service. Service is old school, experience is new school. This is how advisors are going to compete. I'm going to go into a lot more about that in the next session. But right now, we're going to be talking about investment strategy. So let's talk about the evolution of income planning. All right. It has changed quite a bit. First, it was all about investment products. And let me tell you, I was a hooked fish on investment products. When I first got into this business, about the first 15 years, been in this business about 15, a little over 25 years now. When I first got into it, it was like, who could have the best investment mix of products? I believe that products ruled the world. I couldn't wait. I was an easy sell, like this one investment or this investment strategy or whatever. I was all about the products and prospectuses, war books. I mean, I was very, very into this. And I know you're probably already thinking ahead going, well, if he was that into it early, he can't be that into it. Products are super important, but it's not selling the bells and whistles anymore about products, in my opinion. And I think most advisors understand that. There are still a bunch that are like, this product is better than the way I represent it. Mixed with this is the best solution out there. I'm not a big fan of that approach. My approach is very, very different. However, products have ceilings. Products have limitations, and a product is only as good as its last year's performance or current performance. So I'd be very, very careful with products. I truly believe the change of evolution of investment planning or income planning is education. The best advisors out there, in my opinion, are all about educations. If you're a part of an FMO, and I can tell you all the top producers, there's some element of education where they're teaching online. They've presented themselves in their practice as an educator. And you can come to them to learn more. And when you teach people more, just like I am right now, you become respected. And when you're respected, people want to buy from you. People want to be next to you. They want to learn from you. So education becomes very, very key. It's no different than what's happening right now. And it's no different than what happens in front of your client. All right. So next up is the importance of investment strategy. It is super important. Now, it's not to show off the bells and whistles of why you think your strategy is so good. That is part of it. But really where it begins is right here in what we call shortfall. Shortfall is basically the gap between where a client is and where they want to be. It's this big gray area that most clients don't even understand. Most advisors kind of understand it, but if I were to give you an illustration, a lot of clients, a lot of prospects find motivation to get online and search for an advisor, to talk to a neighbor or family or friend, to sit down with you. Why? Because there's this pit in their stomach. There's this feeling where there's like, it's not right. I just don't feel good about it. And they can't put their finger on what that is. And let me just tell you, it's their shortfall. It's the problem that's holding them back from achieving retirement success. I'm going to explain what the shortfall is visually in our planning system, but let me I wanted to take a moment to represent this. When you explain and visually show a client what their shortfall is, they're like, that's it. That's why I haven't been sleeping. That's why I don't have peace of mind. That's why I feel uncomfortable. That's why I'm here. This is the first time an advisor has explained this to me in a way that I'm like, that's it. There's another aha moment. All right. And how we get there is through a technique we call co-planning. There's no more presenting. Yeah, I talked about this in the last session. If you're on this video, you understand this. We are huge believers in co-planning. There is no more you plan on your own. We're planning directly with the client present right next to us. There a lot of times I have no idea what the plan's going to look like. When I'm hitting the buttons right next to them and they're getting involved with the keyboard and they're having the same experience that I am right in front of them. And it's magical. It's so amazing. So let's talk about simplicity really quick. And I want to help you understand what this co-planning is, or first of all, shortfall. So when we fill out their information, and we're filling in how much, what the retirement income needs to be, any life events, long-term care concerns, what have you. We start filling in all of their investments, any pensions that they have, and Social Security. Once you do that, it gives you what we call their base plan. A base plan, very simply, is how much money they have with no investment strategy to see what's the mountain they have to climb, what's the issue, what's their shortfall, excuse me, that they have to overcome. So after we break down their investments and go over their plan, they're going to come down here to the bottom to seeing this red, and it's red on purpose. And when I was working with our development team doing this, they're like, why do you want red? That's so ugly. I'm like, because red represents a problem. When you see a red stoplight, or a stop sign or stoplight, it's a stop in your tracks, danger is ahead. And I want that same feeling here because this represents the danger, the problem, the hill they have to climb for the rest of their life. And I want them to absorb it and own it. Because whether I help them, another advisor helps them, or they do it themselves, this is a problem that has to be solved. You can't stick your head in the ground and go, it's going to work out. The reality is, this isn't going to go away. And when I show a client this and they're sitting in front of me and they go, how would you fix this? We just crossed the bridge of, hey, you're a trusted advisor in my life. What do you think? If they don't ask that, I still have a lot to go to help them understand and own their problem, because this problem has to be solved. And there's a short thing that has to take place. You can't just dump them on this and leave. You actually have to share the problem, and then just a few minutes, start solving that problem. Because if you leave them here, they're just like, hey, he's telling me I got all these problems. I'm going to go to somebody else that's going to fix something. Most of the time, the prospect is going to say, hey, what would you do? Especially if you've done the job really well. Then you go into investment planning. In investment planning, here's where the magic happens, the ahas. So I like to invite clients up if they're in front of me or if they're online. We're going to do this together, and we're going to go through, and here's their investments. And let's just say this person is ready to retire, and we're talking to Joe, and I'm like, well, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to sell this. We're going to get rid of this 401k because you're limited. It's in a box of just 6 items or 16 investment choices, and we want to give you the world of investment options. So we're going to get out of that 401k. So click that sell button. They're going to come up on the board, or click the mouse, and they're going to hit sell. And it's co-planning. They're doing this with me. And then we're just going to quickly, get rid of some of these investments just for time on this video. And then we're going to come down here, and the first thing that we're going to see is that we've sold investments, and we have $650,000 of this 401k, which we're going to roll into an IRA right away. Okay. So then we have this IRA for Joe. We're going to add an investment. We're going to put a custodian. This is where the power of the keyboard comes in, because I'm literally going to say, hey, can you type in the word Schwab or Fidelity or whatever custodian you use? They're going to put it right here, and they're taking ownership, saying, hey, if I'm working with this advisor, I'm going to move my money from where it's at in my 401k to their company, Charles Schwab, Fidelity, wherever it is. So we're going to put that in there. This is Joe's account, and we're going to invest. Just for simplicity, we're going to put the whole $650,000. And then what we're going to do is we're going to start adding an income strategy. So we've got annuities, bonds, CDs, life insurance, mutual funds, third-party asset management. I'm a dividend guy. But let's just say if we bought an annuity and I just got some default values in here, the first thing that you're going to notice, I can't write on my software. The first thing that you're going to notice is that it overcame 29% of their shortfall. So by buying this annuity, they're 29% of the way there of climbing the hill of overcoming their shortfall. If we sold a bond with all of that money, it's going to get them 32%. And that wasn't the best annuity. It's just an example. The next one, let's just say mutual funds. Mutual funds get them 33% of the way there. Let's go. I'm a big fan of dividend income. I'm a huge fan. 63% of the way there. This is why I'm such a big fan. So at the end of the day, they're sitting right next to me. And I'm literally putting in strategy and changing it. And we're just adding one. I mean, they have more money to invest. But the point is, what you just experienced, the client's like, well, hey, the annuity worked, the bond worked, whoa, those dividends look really good. And another plan annuity might look really great, a bond, whatever. What I'm sharing with you is the same experience that they're getting where it's like, whoa, strategy does have an impact. You know that as an advisor. I know that as an advisor. Now we're like taking that knowledge and now they're getting it and they're like, whoa. So this isn't just a product anymore. This is a potential solution. This is something like, whoa, stop. What just happened? Why'd that go from 30? All the other ones around 30. Now this jumped to 60 and we add another investment, or whatever it is, and it jumped to over 100 and there's no more red and it's all green. And I used to say it's kind of corny. I don't say it anymore. We want to turn your red problems into green solutions. I don't say that. But what we're trying to do is solve this. We gamified it. And the client's sitting right next to me and they're just like, this is awesome. Like, this is my plan. This is my solution. You're my guy. You're my gal. You're the one that I need or that I want in my life because you help me understand my shortfall. You're the first advisor to do that. You pointed out visually my problem, and then you brought me along and showed what investments work, which ones are okay, which ones don't, and which ones do. And you let me see behind the curtain everything that you see. Full transparency. Can you see why this is effective? I mean, it's super effective because as you're doing this, you're getting sold, they're getting sold on solutions that actually work in their scenario every single time. The hard part is you don't even know what's going to work before you sit down. After you do it for a while, you start to understand which ones look good and which ones don't. And I always show the bad. Always. I did a teaching video years ago called Show Bad Recommendations. Don't recommend bad recommendations, just share them with them. Why? Because it's just important that they understand what doesn't work just as it does what does work. So when we're going through this, we're helping the client, the prospect, understand the power of co-planning because they're having these aha moments. I was like, is that how you spell it? Aha moments right next to me. And I'm having the same ones. Like, I was super animated when I was going through that because a lot of times that's how I feel in front of a client. Where we're going through it, I'm like, look at the power of that strategy. Because we have a good planning method because we're co-planning right next to them. They're getting the same experience. And now we're figuring out, we're solving their shortfall right with them, shoulder to shoulder. They have a keyboard. I have the screen. Sometimes they have the screen and I have the keyboard, but they're driving. They're in control. At least they feel like they're in control, which is super important because we make emotional decisions and we back those emotional decisions up with logical connections. So when I'm able to muster up emotion by seeing the problem in red, and then we're able to solve it with a logical investment strategy, they're just like, whoa, what just happened? I got emotional, but I want to keep my emotions in check. And then we kept them in check because I saw a logical solution that I can understand because I didn't even go through the education of when we sit on investment strategy and they're just like, well, what is that? And then we start explaining. That's a whole nother thing we didn't get into today on how do you explain very simply. And a lot of you guys, and gals out there are super good at that. Some of you are better than I am. And I learned from you just like you learned from me. But there is a tremendous value and power in co-planning. All right. So here's what: show strategies that don't work. I already talked about that. Share bad recommendations. You're not going to recommend it. You're clearly not going to. I don't know an advisor that purposely, I've never met one that would be like, yeah, I want to sell that because I'm going to make more commission. There are bad apples out there. I've never met one in person. I've read about them. But the reality is most people, 99.9% of advisors, they're not going to give a bad recommendation, but show it. Show it why it doesn't work. There's a lot of value in that. The trust level goes through the roof. What strategies do work? I want to solve it. When I see that red bar and we gamified our simplicity system, the first thing I want to do is turn that red to green. Sometimes you can't. Sometimes no matter what strategy you put in there, you can't solve it. Why? Because their expectation for retirement is way out of whack. And you know what? Sometimes you have to be that truth teller. That person's like, you can't do it. Something has to happen. You have to work longer. You have to retire on less, or you got to save more before you quit. I mean, sometimes it's just a tough situation, but I'd rather know that now before I get into a situation where 5 years, 10 years down the road, they're suing me because they ran out of money. I don't want that. Be like, you can't afford it. I know it. I'm not going to get into a relationship where you're going to set me up for failure. I'm going to tell you right now, I can't fix it. And it ain't worth the sale, in my opinion. I work too hard to build my practice. No one client's going to bring it down. All right? Because I want to show what strategies do work. I want to show that don't. Real-time impact, the power of simplicity. There might be some other planning systems out there that do this, that show you like in the moment, when I apply this strategy, here's how it plays out. That is a huge, like literally as I'm clicking, I don't have to like save it and like wait. I just click different strategies, mix and match, and you see an impact in seconds. And that makes a big impact on the client, the prospect that's sitting right there, that's seeing the same thing I am. And it becomes fun. I mean, our job, our career is sometimes very, very boring. But when you can make it come alive and be exciting and have a client take ownership, it changes so much. It gets me fired up. I mean, I do the same thing every day, but it feels very different, and it's very fun. I truly enjoy it. And I'm going to put in all different types of scenarios because of this two-prong approach. I'm not representing something I know that isn't going to work. I'm clicking on all these different scenarios because I want to see for myself. And in the process, I am actually showing what doesn't work because I'm just exploring all these different situations and what the impact would be, because you don't know what you're going to learn. And I want them to have the same education for me. And when I do this over and over and over, I'm like, wow. And I will tell you this, the more you do it, the more you're like, that ain't going to work. That ain't going to work. That ain't going to work. And sometimes we get lazy. And we're just like, you know what? I'm just going to go to the thing that I know is going to work and solve their problem and just get right there. Well, you pull the power of the whole thing away when you're not showing the things that don't work and exploring very different scenarios for the client. And I've been there myself. Also, when I have a review with clients, and let's say they've been a client with me for 5 years, sometimes I just start working and going over their performance and their history of how they've been with me, and I don't go back to simplicity. And that's a cardinal sin. You always have to go back to the plan. You have to resell, reconvince, transfer of ownership from that prospect. If they've been a client forever, go back to it. And I can tell you there's been clients that have used their plan simplicity like 8 years ago. And I used their plan for a couple of years, and I got away from it for several years. And then you come back and they have all these same questions. And they started going back to simplicity 5 years later. And now they're a stronger client, send more referrals because I'm going back to the basics continually, reminding them why we're in certain strategies. Over and over, I'm beating the same drum. It is fun, but the reality is you have to, because they forget. We do this every day, all throughout the year. They get like a couple hours a year with you. They don't remember. So we have to constantly reteach them of the impact of why we're doing what we're doing. All right? Because ultimately we're trying to empower them. I don't want to have to over educate clients. We constantly send videos. We're a very big teaching firm. But at the end of the day, the more that they can take ownership and empowerment of their future, the less I have to do. It takes a lot of work from me, but then I'm not having to answer calls. Every time the market falls, my phone doesn't ring off the hook because our clients own their plan, own their strategy. They feel good about it. We work hard throughout the year to get them there. Because they're empowered, we don't have to stress when things don't work out well. All right? An engaged client is more likely to believe you and your strategy. This is huge, in my opinion, to your success and my success. We have to get them engaged. We do it through co-planning. Next up, aha moments create empowered clients. When the light bulb goes off, they're just like, whoa, I understand this. Like, I get the shortfall. I see the dividend strategy. I see the solution that works really well for me. And I am going to take decision. Like, I'm going to make a decision. I'm going to take action, and I want to be your client. Okay. Aha moments are super, super important. And the last thing I want to talk about is clients who build their plan, take ownership of it. This is co-planning. Okay. We want to bring, whether you use simplicity or not, co-plan with your prospects. It's going to change your practice. It actually reduces, I didn't talk about this much, but it reduces the amount of prep work. I don't even do prep work. I haven't done prep work in forever. Somebody comes in, let's say they're existing clients. I don't update anything. They come in with their statements and we do it together because I want that same experience every single time. I'm sitting down with a brand new prospect. I'm not writing anything down on a notepad or filling out something online or a questionnaire. I'm building their plan with them, giving them the keyboard. They're doing work just like I am. There's zero prep time. You know how much time I've saved and how much time I've gained back in my practice by implementing this? More time than you can imagine. And they take ownership of it. Again, lastly, I'm hitting this head on so many different times. There is synergy. We talked in last session about investment or income planning. Today we talked about investment strategy. These two work hand in hand. If you have a great plan but don't know how to bring it to life with a great investment strategy, you're destined for failure. Once you get these two things, which are super vital, if you don't have an income strategy, if you don't have a strategy that's going to work to get your client where you are, you're sunk. You're just going to be a revolving door of clients in and out of your space. You have to have a great plan. You have to have an amazing investment strategy. And the last thing we're going to talk about next session is customer experience, which I can't wait to dig into. They all work together. And I have something really cool for you, which I talked about last time. If you haven't already gotten it, get the ultimate guide to elevating your practice, mastering the 3 pillars. It's free. There's no cost to it. All you have to do is reach out to us. I don't believe there's a download link on the page, but just reach out to us, chat us, whatever. Ask for the ultimate guide. We'll give it no questions asked for anything. With all of our videos, we give just about everything away for free. We have one program called Advisors Ascend that we charge for. That's it. Everything else we do. So there's no like bait and switch or anything that we're doing. We're trying to help advisors because the more we learn, the better, more successful we become. So the energy and effort that we put into our teachings is because of how much we've learned everywhere else. And when we do this, we get better ourselves. So there's a little bit of selfish desire here because the more I teach, the smarter I get, the better I am, and the more success I have. So I'm not ever going to stop teaching, okay? But we do have an awesome program in Advisors Ascend. But if you're not ready for that, go get the ultimate guide. So until next time, hope you enjoyed this. Last session in this series is up next.